Rich Mitchell waves off the fright in front of you. You're staring defeat in the face, quite literally. Tell me at that point, what does it mean to be a fighter? What does it mean to be a human? And what are the thoughts that are glistening around your brain?
Disappointment in the moment, obviously. You know, the first thing that is gonna, or that comes to me anyway, is not again. And that should be, I feel, for most fighters, your natural instinct anyway. If you want to fight and win, because you should have a competitive attitude. To lose, you know, it hurts. It very much does in anything in life, really. But it does hurt this much more when you put everything on the line on a daily basis for this one small moment where there's endless possibilities of wins and losses in there. Um, Once I've had a second, I dust myself off. I take a moment, let the emotions kind of just settle, because you know, inside you probably want to scream and shout, and everything's going to come out of you, but it achieves nothing. And I know, more importantly to me now, I guess, as I've got older, the first thing I need to show everybody is I'm okay. Um, because I've been in so many fights now, and I have people support me, and they're pretty good for about 3 fights, I reckon. And then the attachment is too much, and it's quite overwhelming to watch me compete, because it brings you like right to the edge of your seat, and it's an emotional roller coaster. And you know, I got to make sure that they understand that, you know, like whatever happened in the fight, you know, I could have got subbed, could have got knocked out, could have got beat up really bad, but the fight's over. I can stand up. I'm okay. Everything's going to be okay. Um, and then I guess once I take my ego out of the equation, it's always a mark of respect. You know, if a man's beaten me fair and square, you know, I'm going to bow to him, say good fight, shake his hand. Um, if he wants a conversation, we'll have a conversation. And if I've won, I don't I don't want to celebrate. I don't want to revel in his misery. I want to thank him for the opportunity, and thank him for the fight.
We talked a little bit off air, and I'm gonna drag that back because I think it's important for people to hear. You mentioned there that the immediacy of the moment is overwhelming. You can't help but feel disappointed. You can't help but feel the uh, the trauma, the loss, the upset. What does it take for you to quell those emotions in that moment? Is it that you have a history of dealing with failure? And I don't mean competitive failure. I just mean failure in any way day of life. I'll pull back the curtain slightly. Before we started this conversation, uh, Sam said that he was going to go and lock his cat downstairs, and his cat had other ideas. Right? There was a failing before we even started the conversation. Is is that ability to quell those emotions? Is that ability to shut down that that aggressive want for outburst a history of failure? Is it a humility? What is that?
I think that is that's my experience of life. That's how my character has grown over time. Uh, I feel like your natural response to most things is very reactive. right? Your first, I give people an example all the time. It's a road rage incident. The first thing you're going to want to do is scream and shout because this person's done whatever's happened. But it doesn't change anything, you know. It doesn't make things better or worse. And in fact, you probably have a moment to share to share a moment with that person in that incident, perhaps, right? I've had moments where, you know, we've had something where I've had to slam on the brakes or something, right? And my first reaction is I'm gonna swear and scream a lot, and then I just check myself, and go, okay, all right, we're all right, everything's okay, they're okay. I'm gonna apologize for whatever happened, yeah, just then, and they're gonna get on with their day without that burst of emotion as well. And it takes away that, I don't know, takes away that, you know, that rage that could build up in somebody for the rest of the day off of the back of that one incident, just by you trying to be, you know, just trying to be a better person there and then in that moment. You know, you have an opportunity to do that, or you can go and stew on this all afternoon and it can wind you up to whatever degree because this incident's happened and you haven't been able to deal with it and those emotions. And it could be the same for that. So I like to think of it in that kind of that kind of aspect.
This
Yeah.
this isn't the same question, but it's a similar question to one that we've asked before, and that's how do you parlay the man you are, the character that you have built over many years, with the person that on Saturday night went in with the intention of potentially separating your opponent from his consciousness. There was twice in the fight where you dropped your opponent. Um, One looked a little more severe than the other, but there was moments in that fight where, in your brain, whether reptilian, conscious, or otherwise, saw that as an opportunity to inflict damage on your opponent and potentially separate him from his consciousness. How does the man that will happily apologize for something that may or may not be his fault in a road rage accident parlay into being a man that can inflict damage on another human?
Um. Well, for me, I can always separate one from the other. All right. For me, within the cage, within that short period of time, we are in a sporting environment, and there is no hate. There's no animosity towards the person, but it's a game. Yeah. I'm trying to win with all my might, and you will try to win with all your might. And I can only hope that I don't give you any real damage, but I want to win the fight the quickest way I possibly can. And after the fight's done, the fight is done. There's nothing more from me ever. There could never be anything more from me because I will throw away all of those emotions immediately. It just, it's a small segment of the day, though it's built up a lot beforehand. Um, and I can try to take that little bit of, I don't know, competitive edge, use that for a short time, and then I can go back to me, who I really want to be, um, the way I want to conduct myself. Um, but it's difficult. It's difficult for people to be able to control that all the time. You know, like in the lead up to the fight, I myself, I was wrestling, really hard wrestling session. The intensity was really high, and two of the bigger guys just next to me, I can hear them getting into it, and then I have to stop them. So, what are you doing? We're trying to help each other. We're trying to improve each other, and we're going to push each other to our absolute limits. But it stops at the competitive environment. That's it. There's no hate. There's no animosity here. You're here to help him get better. He's here to do exactly the same. All of that, all of that ego, all of that, whatever emotional response you've had, you need to throw that away and get back to training.
I think that it takes a level of mastery in order to unpeel the layers to get to that point, right? And I feel that it's a culmination of life experience, but also training experience, where you're right that there are when you're in a training session, whatever type of training session, right? It could be striking, it could be straight wrestling, it could be out and out grappling, it could be MMA grappling, it could be anything. There are moments when the intensity builds, and especially for fighters, it's very important for you to in some way replicate the intensity of an actual fight. But in the same vein, these are your friends, these are your training partners, these are people who you have a duty to protect because they have to be there tomorrow and the next day and hopefully in 3 weeks' time. And I think that the ability to emotionally separate what is a training environment with what is mm, an emotional environment, I think comes with a level of mastery of both the art of training, but also the art of self. Would you agree with that?
I do. I do. And it's a, you need to, you have to look after your team. You need them, but you need them as well. Not only in, not only in the gym. You want to help build these people as strong characters themselves. You don't want, you want to help them. I look at it the same way as I look at martial arts now. It's helped me so much to understand a lot of life, a lot of the things that we have to deal with every day. And it's a, there's always a fine line that you don't cross, right? Where you need that intensity, you need that that level of I don't know, hard sparring occasionally, but that's not for everybody as well, and those who it's not for, I don't want them to be necessarily put in that situation. I would like them to be part of the team, part of the build up, part of the group surrounding that that high intensity work, but they don't need to be the person who's, I don't know, dealing with whatever's coming at them necessarily. Because some people, then they're not necessarily, they're not they're not I don't want to say they're not built for it,
They're
but
not ready.
not for them, because it can cause such a negative for them that they're going to feel like this is more than a training session. You are trying to do harm to me, and they'll take things, quite literally, when in reality, for some, it's, I'm just trying to land a couple of shots. I'm just trying to keep the pace, trying to push you so you can push back to get me better. But not everybody has that maturity, that level, and the understanding as well. And plus, everybody's got something else going on in their life we don't know about. Whatever stresses are going on in your life, I don't know. Maybe I go hard today thinking like, right, we've got a high intensity training session. You're just you're on the verge of something else right now, and you don't need this today, you know.
I feel like there's a level of intrinsic trust there too. And, when you were saying there are some people that aren't ready to deal with the intensity of a certain level of training, I think that's a room that you have to curate over a significant period of time and trust, because you could be, there are days that you're going to be the hammer and there are days that you're going to be the nail. And I think that when you're either role, your partner has to trust that you're in control of both how hard you're going to hammer that nail and how much mercy you're going to show to that person when you are the nail, when you are the hammer, sorry. And yeah, if you don't have enough experience in being either, or you haven't had the right mentors to show you what either means, then I think it becomes uh, an intrinsic emotional response, because you feel like boundaries are being crossed and you feel like you've been violated, right? You feel like that trust has been violated. And yeah, I think for professional fighters, you it's maybe one of the more difficult things to curate is a room full of people not only with the same goals and the same passions, but the same awareness of what training is and should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to build that. And I've been building that for many years, and people have come, people have gone, people are still here. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got my brother close by, the same weight, high skill level as well. It makes it a lot easier for me to deal with that, because we can go very hard knowing that we are only trying to help each other get better. And to others, that that may look quite terrifying and like we're really we're really like trying to kill each other, but we're not. We're never at that point. We're always trying to improve each other. And then I've got others in the gym who I'm building or trying to build the same capacity, the same ability to keep going, to want more, to to understand that level of intensity that we're trying to push without. I'm not necessarily trying to break you. I want to get you close to the edge where you feel like you're gonna give up, and there's an opportunity for you to take the easy road or just keep going, sort of thing. And try and get a lot of those guys and just inch them on a little bit more, just a little bit more, without, like I said, scaring people off or doing something untold to their emotions that they just don't need, you know.
So I think that's a brief look into what it is to be a fighter and what goes into a camp, just a brief glimpse. So can you speak on, you go to the back and you take your shower and you get dressed and you get checked out and everything's fine and you go back home. What's the moment of reflection like when you start to go over the camp and the amount that's gone into the camp, the amount people have pushed you and you've pushed them, what you've given to that camp and they've given to your camp, and to know that it didn't go your way after that culmination of effort? What's that like?
Again, it's there will always be, you know, the disappointment in, one, you're a world champion 1 minute, and now you're the B-side now, right? You've got to build yourself back up from where you were. um After the fight, once I've done my roundup of phone calls to family just to let them know that I'm okay. You know, I've had that moment where I've walked back from the medical room, signed off my bits and pieces, take off my gloves, my wraps. I'm okay. Disappointed, but I'm okay. The coaches, they're following me. They don't know what to say most of the time, which I get. You know, you don't know what to say. I think as well. Like if the fight, the performance, if I was dreadful, they've got lots to say. If I got beat up the whole fight, we've got lots to talk about. But when, you know, the fight has gone pretty well, I'm looking pretty good, it's very difficult for them to have a great deal to say apart from keep your hand up. But then it's like, you're disappointed, but you can't get you can stick your head in the sand and you can be disappointed and go into a little black hole and hide from the rest of the world. But for me, I'm grateful. You know, I get to do this for a living. I had people offer to help me train over the Christmas period when they should be getting fat, getting with their family, enjoying a nice holiday break and that. And I'm so blessed to have people who want to come into the gym and help me, who want to go out of their way when they could be doing other things to come and offer their support to me. And I get quite emotional. Like when I think about it before the fight, after the fight, I'm so grateful to all of these people. And that's when I say like I go into a fight and when I'm in there, I carry them in my heart. I really do mean that. Like I can almost feel my heart beating through my chest like every time I think of those guys, the supporters, my teammates, the coaches, my family. I can feel them with every step that I take towards the cage, you know. So I'm always disappointed. I'm disappointed when I win, let alone when I lose. But I'm disappointed but grateful, and I'm so blessed to have all of these people around me who support me no matter what.
And that takes me to the day after, I think it was, or even the day after that. There's a video of you on the patio, getting the bag again. And that's fascinating to me because, sure, look, you took a few shots, couple of leg kicks, there's a bit of grappling. You know, there will be small niggly injuries from the camp, as there is for every fighter going in there. And instead of taking a little time, heal up a little bit, you know, do the things that your body may need to recover, you're back on the patio and you're back hitting the bag. What what takes you to that bag? Is it self-deprecating thoughts? Is it self-loving thoughts? Is it just self-regulation? Like, what is it that the day after or the day after that, I can't quite remember. What is it that takes you outside into your back garden, onto the patio of dreams, and you're facing that bag again?
Um, as well, a small part of it is always routine, right? I I find routine is very important for a lot of people, even more so for me. It seems to help just to keep me grounded most of the time. I know what I'm going to be doing next. Um, Luckily, I guess I think I went into that fight with a few more injuries than I came out with. So that week off in the build up to the fight where I'm cutting weight, and that actually helped. But you know, like I had a swollen cheek. Apart from that, I was raring to go again straight away, because I guess when you lose, and you've lost as many times as me, at the at the at your closest moment, I guess, to the big step, most people from the outside looking on would be, you know, and I've been told by people in the past, probably time to jack it in now, isn't it? Time to sit back and go and get a proper job or something. And I'm like, that's just not how life works. I think of this with so many fighters I've watched over the years. I can't tell you how many, since I started, I've been obsessed with looking at all of these fighters, and I guarantee half of those guys could have made it if they'd have just picked themselves back up after a loss, got back on the horse and carried on. Get that indestructible mindset where, okay, you might have won today, but this doesn't kill my dreams. You cannot, doesn't matter what happens, you cannot kill my dreams, and you will not stop me from keeping on with my goals. And I guess that kind of thought, it keeps pushing me to improve, to get back in the gym, to try to make myself a better martial artist, and just to never give up.
We spoke off air also about fighters being in some way delusional. And there is an element of delusion in that, right? That never say die attitude, that never give up attitude. You already highlighted two of the points I was going to lead on to, and I'll start with this one. But, you know, when you get to the apex of a organization like K-Tory is, the obvious next step that a litany of fighters have taken is the UFC. If it's not the UFC, it's one of the other big promotions, right? It's a KSW, it's a Bellator, it's a One Championship, it's a whatever. What happens now? Because it feels and felt at the time going into that fight with Shaj is that a win on that card, the UFC's coming to London in March, it seems like a shoo-in, right? It seems like the timing. Obviously, it could have been an all-out war, and you'd have been, you know, you could have taken some big damage and whatever. But conventionally, that doesn't happen in MMA, right? And from New Year's Eve to March is enough time to heal up, turn the horse around, and get back into a position to fight. Was that the plan? Is that the plan? What what is Sam Creasey's aspirations as of today?
As of today, my goal is always to get into the UFC. My goal is to get there, to fight the best in the world, to show how good I am on my day. When I perform, I know I'm a world class fighter. I show glimpses of it, and show glimpses of some utter stupidity at times. But that's my own failings in there. I never like to look too far ahead, but I'm always aware. You know, people are always going to be asking me that same question: when's the UFC coming? Have they spoken to you? Blah blah blah. The fight, I felt I was doing good. I felt it was going well, and I thought, okay, a couple more rounds, same thing. This is in the bag for me. You know, a shot comes out of nowhere and you go sleep. What can I say? That is the nature of the sport. But my goal is always to get to the UFC, to fight the best in the world, and it's never changed. It never will.
Let's talk a little bit about the fight. So, when we spoke after the Birchich win, we spoke about how laser focused you were, how you saw everything coming. In the first round, I felt as though there were elements of that, but maybe not the same laser focus that was in the Birchich round. You obviously drop him with a beautiful left hand. He gets back up, steadies himself fantastically well. Very quickly, he gathered himself back together. I thought that was ultra impressive. Um, the second round, I thought was the most confident Sam Creasey we've seen in a while. Um, I was most impressed in that second round with your footwork. Shaj is an awkward man to deal with his timing, his stance switches, his body feints, and his general footwork patterns. They're awkward. They're difficult. He cuts angles well. He distance manages well. And I just thought that in that second round, there was this. It felt like you'd grown 2 weight classes in that minute break, and you came out and you were marauding around the cage, and your footwork was like a protrusion into what was a man in Shaj who had to question, when's that next left hand coming, right? And I thought that the second round was a really good round for you. Um, the third round, then I felt like, more of the same, maybe a touch less confidence, but more of the same. The left hand landed again, and there was a flash knockdown again, and then obviously the pull 1-2 happens, and the fight stopped. In your estimation, outside of and we'll talk about the technical side of the fight, but how did you feel in there? What were you what were you aware of? There was a moment in the third that I wanna get your opinion on mostly, and he lands 3 inside low kicks, right? And you take them, fine, whatever. And then you set him up and land 2 really clean low kicks of yourself, and when the second one lands, it obviously catches him clean, and he smiles. And a smile to me in a fight's always a big tell. It's a, "Okay, you got me," or it's a, "That one stung," or, there's a something behind that smile. How did you feel in that fight? What did you take from him in that fight?
Um, I felt good. I felt stylistically, we did change up a few things simply because it is Shaj. He's he is a mover like no other flyweight really in the UK. Um, and what we didn't want to get drawn into was chasing him or trying to fight at his pace, because that'll tire me out. I'm not used to fighting at that pace the whole time. So we slowed things down a little bit. We knew he was going to come out really fast in the first anyway. His jab is always pretty sharp. But by the third, I felt he was just about slowing down a little bit. And I was just seeing that jab a little bit earlier and just catching it a little bit earlier every time. Now, that didn't end up going in my favour in the end, but I felt I was pretty much in control with the majority of the fight there. He got me with a nice quick single leg in the first round, but we were back to our feet before anything really happened there. And then I didn't really feel under any kind of massive threat of a takedown, despite the clinches in the second and third rounds, really. I felt he was there trying to get another quick takedown, but never really overcommitting to it. And I felt pretty strong in those positions. But for myself, I got to keep my hands up better. Probably throw a few more low kicks again. I could have worn him down a little bit more, but when a shot comes out of nowhere like that, I guess there's two factors: the beauty of the shot itself, which was a peach, but my hand dropping as it has in the past at the wrong time means I'm on my arse and the fight's over before we know it.
You mentioned disappointment when, you're looking up and Rich Mitchell's in front of you, and a fantastic stoppage, by the way. There was, there was no need for anything else, I don't think.
I spoke to Rich after the fight. It's like, you're my bad luck, my friend.
Yes.
But it was a perfectly fine stoppage. I had no issue with that. You could
No.
see from the shot after the fight, my arms are stuck by my side.
Mhm.
Luckily, I was back with consciousness pretty quickly after that, but I didn't need any extra shots.
No. And on Shaj's part as well, I think as soon as he landed the shot and he saw the way that you fell, I don't really think he didn't look like he was committing to anything either. Uh, I think he stood over you just in case Rich wasn't going to stop it, but obviously Rich was absolutely on the money and stopping at the right time. You mentioned disappointment, as I say. You mentioned that your hands have been caught low before. Does that does that take a part of your soul when there's obviously a lot riding on every fight, right? And there's a lot riding on the fight going into New Year's Eve. You've won the title outright. You are the Cage Warriors champion. There's lots going in. And I know that you can't think of it like that when you're going into a fight, right? You're just this fight with another man. But to make a mistake that you've made previously, is that something that eats away?
It will, and it will come back and it'll bite me in the ass again, I'm sure, at some stage. Um, my style, it's a funny one because it seems to change quite a lot over the over the years. My style of movement, my style of footwork, and for this camp, it was far less movement, far less footwork, a lot more solid with my base and keeping my hands up much better. I felt in the first two rounds I did just that. I think just before the finish, you'll see I almost go back to old habits. He throws a low jab to the body. I hop out the way and I whip my arms up in the air nice and high. Now I've done this and I do this quite often, like when I'm playing sparring in the gym. And then on the next combination is when he catches me, and that's when my hand, because I think my hand was up just before that, but I think as he's coming in, I'm just starting to drop it already. And I can't tell you whether I was going to do anything with it, but I've dropped it enough. And then, you can't say anything about a shot like that. It was a beautiful punch. Whether my hands were up or not, that would have probably knocked me out. But it will stick in my mind. And I've been in the gym since. My left hand's been glued to my head. I think it's just a case of, for myself as well, just keeping my focus better. I enjoy myself far too much in there. Far, far, far too much. There's in between the rounds, I'm giggling to myself because somebody's brought me in a stool and I've never sat in a stool in my life. Yeah, I've got to focus better in these fights and that. Got to remember the task at hand. Focus on the present.
I'm gonna read a quote from your Instagram. I've got a couple of quotes from your Instagram, but this is the one that I really want to hear your thoughts on, and that's maybe this is poignant for the man sat on the stool giggling in the middle of a fist fight. Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? The path I tread was never one planned for me. Can you speak on that a little bit?
So that's pretty much my story, right? I come into a lot of people think I've started martial arts when I was young. I didn't start any martial arts until I was 21. And then at 21, I wouldn't really say I started martial arts. I'd say I was dragged into an MMA gym with some good people, but they didn't really know what MMA was either. and we were just kind of putting it together. So it's been a slow process, and each time I've kind of learned. Well, I'm doing it right now still. I learn on the job every day, and make subtle improvements and become a better, more well-rounded martial artist. But it's always learning. So for me, I've this was never this was never a plan. My goals when I left school were limited. I didn't really know what I was meant to be in this world we're in. Um, and I've fallen into this position by mistake, if you like. Um, and now it's all I know, and it's all I'm associated with, I guess. People think of me now, and they think of the fighter, uh, and not much else apart from a guy who walks around with his dogs occasionally. um, and it's a path that you know there's there's goals that I've got, but I don't know where we're going to end up. You know, I'm always looking. I see where I need to be and what I've got to do to get there. But who knows which direction we go before we end up at that destination.
Indeed, indeed. You mentioned you're a man that's sometimes known for walking through his village with the dogs. Um, as you can see, we have a special guest here today. He's not showing his best side, obviously, but can you speak a little bit about the relationship that you have with your dogs? I obviously have one bulldog, and you have an army of them. Um, there is something I think very unique about a relationship with animals, and I think especially bulldogs. They're a very unique type of breed. Um, what do you take from your army of dogs?
um, Companionship and an undying love for you, no matter what. Right? You come home and they are happy to see you, no matter what. they they just want to spend time with you, and I love them, and I love spending time with them. I'm grateful to spend time with them. You know, um, but I guess I do have a bit of an affinity with a lot of things with nature, a lot of animals, a lot of creatures. Find myself I come across every kind of creature where we are out in the sticks, and I don't know. Sometimes I'll find if I go for a walk in the morning with the dogs, I process my thoughts, just almost, you know, talking back and forth to myself in my head, sort of thing. And I find myself chatting away to the dogs at the same time, and they don't have an answer, so they let me process my thoughts a little bit easier. And then by the time I've come back, I've come to a conclusion of whatever's going through my head at the time.
Well, I'll end on this. Sam Creasey, the man, Sam Creasey, the fighter. Who are you today?
Sam Creasey, the future world champion.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Mm,
much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
absolutely.